Hello, Kashara. Hello, Mandy.
Hey.
How's everybody?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hello, Emma. Hello, Rachel.
Hi. Professor.
How are you?
So.
Well. Where's everybody? They're not excited to have Grammar Day?
They're coming.
Damn it. What could be more fun than this on a 30-degree day? After it's been warm and now it's
I mean,
cold.
on your this dot. On this. On both? Okay.
Hello, Aisha.
Hi.
And Kay Dukes.
Hello.
How are you?
All right. How are you?
Okay. Teresa's again. Hello, Teresa.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Glad the weather's getting nicer.
Well, it's gotten crummy yet after a few good days. Other than it's sunny today, at least.
It's not that bad out, is it?
No, it's actually warmer than it looks.
Oh yes. Well, it isn't as bad as it was a couple weeks ago. So, but it isn't quite as nice as it was on, I guess, Saturday and Sunday when it was up almost 50.
Yeah, that was nice.
But it's coming. All right. Well, missing a lot today. Kayla here, and Kayla's not here, and Mandy's here though. Why did I not mark you off? There we go. All right. Well, we'll give them just a couple more minutes, and then we will go on to our talking about our stuff for today. Well, let's let's go ahead and get started because we don't have a lot of extra time today. And so what I would like to do is, first thing we're going to do is kind of talk about the tense and aspect worksheet. Let's make sure that you've kind of got a feel for how that works. Then we're going to talk about sentence elements once again. You should have already seen them in the videos, seen them in the PowerPoints that went along with those videos. I would just suggest you got to make sure that you get that part down pat. So if you didn't watch them, it's real important that you do because we're going to have a bunch of points on the midterm that deals specifically with that. And then once we've talked about the sentence elements, we'll probably look through the workbook part of that as well. Then I want to talk about some verb types, which is kind of about the last thing that really shows up on the exam. But I want to make sure that we get an opportunity to introduce them today. So what I would like you to do is take out your tense aspect identification worksheet. That would be the one with 15 questions on, or 15 sentences on it. And we're going to go through this. Now I'm going to reiterate just briefly. If you have a perfect tense, if it's one of the perfect tenses, it will have some form of have in it. And the past participle. If you have a progressive tense or a continuous, progressive and continuous are synonymous. It just depends on which side of the Atlantic you're on. And but the continuous is the one that's always going to have some form of to be and an ing form of the main verb. And even when we get to the point where we've got perfect progressive, that will include have, it will include a past participle be, or for be, and that is been, and then we're going to have the main verb in an ing form. Finally, we've got the simple tenses, which don't require any auxiliaries.
Is this from the other week? Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Is this from the other week?
It's from last week, and the homework was, I think, for Wednesday, last Wednesday.
Okay.
So, first one on here is, I have eaten snails several times. I'm going to start with Deshara in the bottom lower corner. I have eaten snails several times. First off, what is the underlying verb form?
Have, but is that the past? The past perfect.
No, it's going to be the present perfect. So let's take a look at this one real quick, okay? I want you to look at the verb have. And if it's have, it's in the present tense, right? And it has a past participle, which is eat. But this is the present perfect tense because have makes it perfect, and have in the present tense shows that it is in the present perfect tense. Okay, let's take another look at number 2. And Teresa, dogs snip trees incessantly.
Dogs sniff trees incessantly. So it's
Yeah,
in the present.
it is, exactly. Now, the important thing here to look at is it's in the simple present. The simple doesn't have any auxiliaries with it. All it has is the main verb. So this would be the simple present. Let's move over to K2.
Where's the worksheet?
Tense aspect worksheet from last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday.
It was supposed to be done last Wednesday.
I have this one, but one is different.
That one's for today. That one was due today. This one was due last Wednesday, but I still want to go over it to make sure you got this understood. So you can find it, nothing else, you can find it in the D2L
Oh,
for week number 7.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so looking at this with K Dukes, I will have been studying for hours. Where do you think that's gonna be? What do you think that one's gonna be?
Is it future perfect progressive?
It is. How did you determine that? How do you know?
I had to look it up.
That's okay. That's better than not doing it, right? But let's take a look at will have been studying. It is the future perfect progressive. How do we tell? Well, the first thing is we see have here, but this time it's not the present tense, it's the future. Will have. I will have says, okay, future. Perfect is going to be there because we have the auxiliary verb have and a past participle been. So that gets us to the future and the perfect. And then finally, studying is the main verb in an ing form, which tells us we're in the progressive. So you look at this and you go, will have is future, been, have been tells us it's perfect, been studying, studying tells us it's the progressive. So it's future, perfect, progressive. And when I sit down to do these, I don't look at them and just remember them. I walk through it. Now, number 4 is going to Aisha. Aisha, looking at number 4, what do you think we've got there?
Give me 1 second. Because I have to pull it up. I left my worksheet here.
Okay, I'll go over it too. Let's see, Rachel, you don't have it, right?
Well, I have it. I'm finding now. I think it's present continue, right?
Right, okay, good. So the present continuous, or synonymously the present progressive. How do we know? Well, is walking. Walking tells us it's probably going to be the progressive tense, and is to be
You
in
done
the
with class?
in the present.
Go
tense.
away!
It's going to be present
Why?
progressive.
What?
Emma, the dog will eat when it gets hungry. There's 2 of them in here. What do you got? The dog will eat when it gets hungry. Simple future and
I also.
you have you can see the gets is underlined. What tense is gets in? Huh?
Would it be simple present?
Yeah. So what we've got here is we have the simple future. The dog will eat when it, simple present, gets hungry. How about the next one? Let's see. Aiden. She should go on vacation before the baby arrives. We've got 2 things here. She should go on vacation before the baby arrives.
I'm questioning it now after that last one. I wrote simple future
Where?
for number 6. So I think that would be for arrives.
Okay, the baby arrives. What is arrives?
Arrives, that's present.
That's present, yeah. How about the go?
Well, I know this is in general is talking about something that would be going on in the future, but I guess go is also present. Is it?
It's okay. So if it was the present and you were going to say go and the word she, what would it be? She
Is going.
no. Okay, no. Just let's use the simple present. She.
Does.
No, not is. Go. She
For the
to the
present.
store. What would you say? How would you say go? What form would go take if you said she go to the store?
Well, you wouldn't say she go to the store.
Well, what'd you say?
She goes to the store.
Great, there you go. So that's the present tense of go, right? She goes. In this case, it doesn't have an S there, so it can't be the present.
Uh-huh.
And it's not the future because we don't have will there. So here's one thing I want you to think about. If you've got a note, now's a good time to take a note. When you see a modal verb like will, should, could, would, ought to, various and similar things, if you see a modal verb, the verb after it, the main verb is going to be in what's called its base form.
Okay.
You've got a modal, should, and the verb that comes after that in a single word verb modal is going to be in the in the base form. That's why it isn't she should goes, right? Because you would never say she should goes. So go must not be in the present. It's in its base form after a modal. And then when you get all the way to the end, as you called it out, simple present for arrives. That works out. Okay, Mandy, I will have graduated by then.
would be, I think the will have graduated will be the future progressive.
Not progressive, no ing verb there.
Perfect.
Perfect. So it's going to be the future perfect.
Okay.
How do we know? Will is in the future and have is an auxiliary verb. Graduated in this case looks like the past tense, but it's actually a past participle. So I will have graduated by then. All right. But Kayla, number 8. I had read the book before the semester started. There's 2 of them in there.
For the first underline, I put in
You put what?
past perfect.
Past perfect, great. Because had is in the past tense, and it's working as an auxiliary with read. Great, so past perfect. How about started?
I wasn't sure about that. Would it be
Huh? Simple
simple past?
Simple past, exactly. It's going to be the simple past. There's no auxiliaries. There's an ed at the end of that verb, so that would indicate that it's going to be in the past tense. Let's see. So I'm going to come down to Geshara, I think, and we are now at number 9. Sam will be going to Brazil for winter break. Will be going. What is that?
Is that future progressive?
It's exactly. It is the future progressive. How do you know? Will be. So be is its auxiliary and ing for going. That indicates the progressive, and the will is simply telling us it's going to be in the future. Very good. Now I'm going to come back up to Aisha.
Yes.
Number 10. I want him to go with you.
So would it be future?
No.
No, okay.
Look at the word. Look at the verb want. I
Uh-huh.
want. Is that the future, the past, or the present? I
The
want.
present. The present.
Okay, and there's no auxiliaries there, right? So
Right.
it must be the simple present. Now, the tricky one should be to go. What do we call those verbs when we've got to in front of the verb?
Can you remind me?
I can't. Let's see. We've got to. and we've got go, and we said to is not a preposition, it's an infinitival to. So therefore, to go must be the
Infinitive.
infinitive. Okay, very good. We got there. All right. Notice, remember what I told you because it'll show up on the test. I'm almost certain. And that is, if you see the word to in front of a verb, it is not a preposition. And if you try to call it out, if an answer is if it were a preposition, then that's not going to work. So everybody take notice. To in front of a verb is not a preposition. Calling it as such will get you a wrong answer. But when it's to in front of the go, we have what kind of form, Aisha? The
Infinitive.
infinitive. Very good. All right. Teresa, we're back to you. We see your chin. Okay. I had been, look at that. Okay. I had been waiting for hours before they arrived. Had been waiting.
Had been reading, I put past perfect progressive
Very good.
because of the ing. It's
Exactly.
progressive. And has been is past perfect.
Right. So you got past perfect and
And then arrive is simple past.
great. Exactly correct. I slept all day, Kay. Hey, that was poetical. I'm a poet. I slept all day, Kay.
Simple past.
Simple past. Can't get any simpler than that, right? All right, we're back up to Rachel. I have been hoping for that outcome. Number 13, I have been hoping.
Okay.
Have been hoping is present perfect progressive.
You are absolutely correct. Emma hit the bricks before we could call on her. So therefore, we're going to Aiden. And I've got, I was eating when the phone rang.
I wrote that is the past progressive.
You're absolutely correct. And then from all Emma's back, I read Tolstoy's War and Peace over the summer.
Oh, sorry, what number is it?
15,
I put
simple past, great. Now I did, once you got all of that done, I gave you another task. What is the past participle in number 1? And that would be Mandy. Mandy, what's the past participle in number 1?
This it is from the same worksheet, right?
Yeah. Number 1, I have eaten snails.
You said the simple.
No, I said I'm just looking for what is the past participle. What did you double underline?
Double underline have eaten.
Well, it shouldn't have eaten. It should only be
Eaten?
eaten is the past participle.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see, what's the present participle, Michaela, in number 3? Present participle.
Oh, the present. I circled study.
Great. Did you double underline something?
Double underline bin.
You're absolutely correct. That's exactly the way it's supposed to be. When we've got the perfect progressive, we're going to have a past participle for be, that's always been, and we're going to have an ing for the main verb. Let's see. She is walking in number 4, Deshara. Any part participles?
Yes, is it walking?
It is walking. And let's see, Teresa, I'm jumping over to you. Any participles in 5?
Inside, no.
Nope, nothing there. Great. How about in 6? I'll let you answer 2.
I think I circled. No, there's nothing in.
Nothing there either. Great. Okay, so that's the easy ones. Now we're over to K tubes because we need a superstar to tell us, is there any participles at number 7?
Graduated?
Yes, exactly. Can you tell me a modal verb in number 7? In number 7, can you tell me a modal verb? Will, no, just will by itself only. Have would be an auxiliary, but we're doing great. Let's see, number 8, Aisha, any participles?
No. 'Cause I don't see nothing like ing, right?
There's no participles could be present with ing, but they can also be past participles after the verb have in a perfect environment. So I had read, even though it looks like either the present or the past, it's also past participle.
Okay.
So read. Let's see, Rachel, any participles in number 9?
Number 9?
Yeah.
No.
No?
Yeah, no.
No, there should be one participle.
Participle for going.
Yes, there you go, going, gotcha. All right, I'll let you go ahead, you'll see that the worksheet is out, the worksheet is out there. Double check these. I won't typically ask a direct question like this, but you will need to know when you should use the various tenses and aspects and what they mean. So I've shown you that, where to look for that in the book. I've shown you a website that gives you a real clear view of how all these things are made. And so don't bypass that, because the idea of tenses and aspects is certainly going to show up on the exam. Now, what I'd like to do is I want to review something briefly. And that is going to be verb types and their complements. But before we actually worry about verb types, let's look at these sentence functions first. Things, sentence elements, or what's going on in these sentences. And so last week you had a video talking about sentence elements.
Mute, I didn't talk.
I can't mute all my crap.
Sentence elements. And so remember that as we're going through this, when you're looking for the subject of the sentence, you're looking for who or what is
And like every time I pick up my draft, right, I don't know how to form those ideas. Like I got, you know, relationship, like resources.
So if you were thinking about
did my
a
homework.
sentence like the dog ran down the street,
I get it, and
then
I made it my
dog
own
would
idea,
be the
right?
subject.
Well, I don't know how to form into a good
It's the
intro.
one
So
doing
I'm
the
stuck on
action.
it for like so
If
long.
I
I
were to
know
go outside and say the weather is sunny,
it's just
weather
like,
is the subject
how do I
because it's what's being
introduce this
described in the
oh,
sentence.
hello, my name is
For action verbs, it's the thing or the person or the thing who is doing the action. And for state of being verbs, it is the who or what that is being described. Now that one should be easy. Typically, people don't have a big problem with that. And so the subject is this one. Now, the place where people run into some problems are telling the difference between a direct object and an indirect object. They sound almost the same in terms of their names, and they are just as confusing. So in the case of a direct object, it's the who or what that is receiving the action of the verb. if I said John kicked the dog, John would be the person doing the action. The action would be kicked. And the thing receiving the action of the verb would be the dog, right? So John kicked the dog would be, the dog would be the direct object. Now, another way, the other side of this is the indirect object. And it's a noun or a pronoun or a noun phrase, any of those, indicating the recipient or the beneficiary of the action of a verb.
Just fine, you're like very
So that's a lot of words
Since
to
today,
say
this month is
that this is the person or thing that receives the benefit of the action.
An African American.
So let's look
Such
at
a
it
big star.
in a real simple sentence.
I don't really see myself.
Sally gave John
It's cool to see.
a present. Sally is the subject because she's doing the giving, right? Sally gave. Now, who is the beneficiary of giving? The beneficiary there is John. Sally gave John, and the thing that was given, that's the direct object, is a gift. Now, when you get confused about this, you're looking at something like this, direct object, indirect object. Oftentimes, if there is an indirect object, you can move it to the end of the sentence with the word to in front of it. For instance, I can say, Sally gave a present to John. To John. John is still the indirect object. The direct object is still a present. It's going to be very important that you're able to differentiate between these. A subject complement and an object complement are probably a couple of terms that you may never have heard before. I was in my late 50s before I heard about a subject complement. It is the expression, the thing that follows a linking verb. And linking verbs and state of being verbs in this case is basically the same thing. We can say that they are synonymous. A linking verb, most common would be is, and the complement in this particular case for the subject is going to either rename it or describe it. A few moments ago, I gave you the sample sentence. The weather is sunny. The weather is being described, so it's the subject. Is a state of being verb or a linking verb, and it is linking the subject to its description, sunny. And so the weather is sunny as a subject complement of the word sunny. It's either an adjective or in some cases it'll be a noun. Barack Obama was the president. Okay, Barack Obama was the president. The president is renaming or describing what Barack Obama was. So that would be another case of the subject.
And
when we get to the
our
object
generation
complement,
has
it's a little bit
advanced so many
strange.
genders, so many things,
It's not something that we
so
have
many things,
in language.
things I will never understand.
I don't understand.
I don't understand.
Stop talking.
I want to be rude, but what exactly is a trans person?
I want
Is it
to
like a person
change.
that can't like choose one gender or something? Isn't that just sign black?
No.
So trans confused.
One change to another.
So you change your role. Well, how can you consider that a different gender? You just change your own gender to this other gender.
That's how you simple transformation,
Yes, I
transgender.
understand. Transformation is transformation, right? But you become a guy, you become a woman. You translate from this one to that one.
That's
How can you be
transforming.
known as a different gender? There's no middleman. You just became a woman.
That's why it's called transgender. You transform. You still,
Yeah, you can call it, yeah, that's like a subgender. You don't have to call it its own thing, right?
you became a different
That's called a
gender,
female.
but they're still considered.
I'm saying it's, I don't even know.
They're still considered transgender, boy.
You still call them a male though?
You
But
call
they
them,
became a woman because they wanted to, right?
then
But
you
they're
call
still
them,
a male.
but you call them female.
Yes, I won't call them people because that's what they want to be called. But okay, I respect you don't want to be a male, whatever. Become a female. You don't become the middleman, right? You become the female,
And I wanna make sure.
Something wrong with you.
Yes,
right?
You don't get it?
No.
this have
You
a
just changed.
section.
Yeah, you change. That's like a something, okay? You change. That's a flat line. You become a this and that. Right? You're here. You go do that. That's transgender right here. You transformation. Woman.
Jump out of my.
Why don't you just call a woman?
You are, but you are transgender
I
woman.
don't know where I left off actually, but I'm gonna start with Michaela at the bottom.
I don't
Michaela,
understand.
You still have at
she
that part.
was stupid.
I don't know. I don't know. I give up.
Identify the complete subject.
I don't want to be here. I don't understand.
I will.
I don't want to go to bed. Not to leave yet.
Okay, well, she was stupid as the whole sentence. What is the subject? She. What is the complete predicate? That is the verb and everything following it.
Without this.
Well, not only stupid, because stupid is an adjective. It's not going to be a verb. What's the verb in there?
Not question.
I'm sorry?
Not question.
Okay, so if she is the subject and stupid is an adjective, what's left to be the verb?
Are.
Are. So this is a state of being verb. Doesn't always jump out as, oh, wow, that's obviously a verb, but it definitely is. Remember, verbs not only show action, but they show state of being. So in this particular case, I'm looking at this and I go, she are stupid. Are stupid is the entire predicate. And what did you call stupid? What kind of a function does it have in the sentence?
Would it be an object?
No, there's no object there. What are stupid? What are stupid?
The sheep.
And the sheep is the subject, right? And so sheep is describing it after a linking verb, so it must be what kind of a complement?
Oh,
Subject complement. That is correct. All right, so sheep is the subject, our stupid is the predicate, and stupid is a subject complement by itself. Number two, good, the sure, the strong oak tree snapped in the wind. What is the complete subject there?
Oak tree,
Actually, it could be a little bigger because we know which oak tree we're talking about.
the strong oak tree.
Very good. Now, I know that when we were all in grade school, we learned that tree was the subject. But we're going to be looking at this a little bit differently and recognize that we know which tree we're talking about. So we're going to have the complete subject being the strong oak tree. The strong oak tree. What's the complete predicate?
I thought you took the charger in the room. What?
And further,
I left you
snap
Huh?
in the wind.
I was just
Remember, we're looking at
Tell your tell your Phoenix to go to class.
No.
In general, everything that follows it at the end of the sentence.
Julia, I said it's snowing outside.
Tree, that's the subject snapped in the wind. Boom, that is a complete predicate. And in the wind, you might look at it and I'd ask you if you thought about what in the wind is.
Couldn't hear anything.
Couldn't hear anything?
No, it was going like in and out.
Okay, let me try it again. So in the wind, how did you label in the wind?
I guess that would be the subject complement.
No, because in the wind doesn't describe the tree. This one's going to be an adjunct, another term you might not have heard of before. An adjunct is something that can be dropped out. We really wouldn't care if you still have a good grammatical sentence like the strong oak tree snap. The other important thing about adjuncts is we could move it. And we could say in the wind, the strong oak tree
No.
snaps. That one should be an adjunct.
No. 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 Go. Can you go? I'm in class. Go away. No. Go away. I'm in class.
The subject is valid mark.
Great.
What's blue is
Why can I not come on?
Go in
Yes.
the room.
blue is
I'm in class.
There you go. Very good.
You're distracting me.
All right. Number four.
Because you're here. I'm in class.
Chime.
Big Ben is the subject.
You made me miss it.
Very good. And notice.
You made me miss the question. Can you go?
That's just the verb by itself. Now, if we said something like Big Ben chimed at midnight,
Go.
well, in that case, chimed at midnight would be the whole complete predicate.
Predicate.
But in this case, it's just that one word. All right, K. Dukes, we're to you. Bob Hope told some jokes.
Bob Hope is the subject.
Yep,
Told some jokes is the predicate.
yep.
And the jokes is the verb subject.
That's actually correct, except I would say that we should say it's some jokes, because we know we've qualified the jokes, but that would be the direct object. Bob Hope, what did Bob Hope do? He told what? He told some jokes. So the some jokes is what received the action of the verb. All right. 6. Aiden, this one's the big tough one. The first of the hard ones. He called the boy Eric. What is the subject?
So the subject is he.
Great. What's the predicate?
Predicate is called the boy Eric.
Wonderful.
So the direct object is the boy,
Yeah,
and Eric is the object complement.
you are correct.
And before we move on, can I ask a question about number 2?
Yeah.
So I asked, can the subject also be the direct object? Because I thought that snapped, the strong oak tree is what snapped, so it's receiving the action. But it's
Well,
the subject. Does that make
That's an interesting point, but no, you can't have the subject be both the direct object and the subject. The direct objects are going to come after the verb.
always?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the subject is typically going to come before it, except in questions. But normally, the strong oak tree did the action of snap.
No.
I don't want to go.
It's only 6 minutes
So
in
that was
right now.
why it's the subject,
Meh.
and you can't use a verb.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Great.
I want to ask number 5.
Yeah.
Joke is direct object, right?
What is?
Oh, I'm not a
Sancho.
teacher. That's so
No,
like
it's the direct object.
He's the teacher.
Okay, that's old. You're like I don't summer school.
He's the
We're
teacher.
now at number
What's that?
7. We are now with Aisha.
Like
She's
that.
That's a student.
I saw her eyebrows go up and down. So that must mean happiness. Aisha, we are on number 7. Samantha and Beth elected Sally vice president.
Is the subject Sally the vice president?
No,
No? Okay, so it's the verb.
who did the action of electing?
Samantha there.
There you go. So Samantha and Beth is the subject. What is the predicate?
Elected Sally vice president.
Wonderful. That's great. That's exactly true. What is Sally?
What is Sally?
Yes,
She is the direct object.
you are correct. And vice president would be
The object complement.
the object complement. All right, you guys are doing well on this one. That's good. Let's see. We're now up to Mandy. Now this one is okay. Steve, show the elderly residents a video.
Can you stop? The subject is Steve, and then the predicate is show the elderly residents a view.
Theo, great. Good. What is the elderly residence?
the indirect. Oh, the indirect.
Is it right? What is the direct object?
The video. A video.
You're right. All right. So that's great. We got Steve as a subject. Showed the elderly residents a video. The elderly residents are the beneficiary of the showing, but the thing that was actually shown was a video. Now I'm going to jump over to Emma because the next one looks a lot the same, but it is different. And so Steve showed the elderly residents to his parents.
He is.
You were kidding me, yeah.
The elderly resident to his parents predicate.
Yeah.
The direct object would be the fee.
The what
The direct object
is what?
fee.
The what?
The direct object would be C.
No.
Oh wait, you
Steve
said
is the subject. The direct object is going to be no, because parents getting are the beneficiary. So what is it? Elderly residents and
direct object.
the direct object it is parents.
And
Very good. All right. So the idea here is, remember I said if you can take something out of the middle of the sentence like his parents and move it to the end with 2 or 4 on the front, it's likely going to be the direct object. I'm sorry, the indirect object.
What?
Normally, the indirect object comes first in the sentence, like John, Dave, Sally, and if.
Because he's the librarian.
You can't move it to the end and go Sal, John.
Library.
Sally,
Is that what you call me? Library.
something like that. All right.
Give me your iPad. Come on.
Let's just continue on through this real quickly. Let's see. I got Emma. We're down to Michaela again. Michaela, are you there? Oh, this one's gonna be easy for you because it's a lot like number 1 when you got hit the first time. Detroit is bankrupt.
with the subject be the truth,
Yeah.
is bankrupt the predicate,
Yeah.
then bankrupt is the subject company.
It's the subject complement. All right, great. Let's see here. Now we're to the shore. That is mine now.
I said that is the subject and is mine now is the predicate. And
Yeah.
mine is direct object.
No, can't be the direct object. 'Cause it's not. You don't have any action going on with it. Is so it's a linking verb. So you got that as the subject. It is the linking verb, and mine would make it be the.
Subject complement.
Okay, that's great. And you remember when we talked about "in the wind" was at the top?
Yeah, the adjunction.
Adjunct, right?
Mhm.
That is now an adjunct. Now that is mine. Could we move it?
Yes, now that is mine. Like,
Right. So that would indicate that it's going to be an adjunct.
okay.
Rachel? Let's
Just go to your room.
Designers are meticulous.
Why you in my room?
Graphic
You're not so
develop
stupid.
this subject. A meticulous predicate. And the meticulous is the subject complement.
Very good. You got it exactly right. Teresa, how about you? He passed the Peking duck mark.
Sorry, I was muted. He is the subject and half Subtracting duck
Here's your storytelling. Yeah, come on. Go, go.
and I put pecking duck as the subject complement, but I don't know if that's
No, because past is gonna actually be an action verb, and so what got passed?
the pecking duck.
Okay, the Peking duck got passed,
Duck,
and who did it go to?
Martin,
So Peking duck must be the,
object complement.
what got passed? What was impacted by the verb? What was the beneficiary? What was passed?
The duck,
Yeah, okay, great, so that must be the die,
the direct object,
and to Martin, Martin would be the,
indirect object.
great. If that covers the front page, I'm gonna let you go ahead and go through the backside, but you've got a key out there. I think the key is available at like 2:30, and you'll find it in week 8. And so you can look that over and double check the rest of it. Once again, if you're not feeling pretty comfortable with this, you need to review it a good bit before we hit the midterm. And the midterm is going to be available on Wednesday. And I have just finished recording a video discussing what to do for the midterm, and it will be available on Wednesday. Both the midterm and the explanatory video will be there at 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So you get started as soon as you want. You'll have a week to do it. But we do have one other topic that's very closely related to these sentence elements that we need to make sure we talk about before we hit the midterm. And that is on the thing that I asked you to print out and bring to class was the identify work verb types handout. Okay. And so what we want to do here, we're these 5 verb types. I'm going to go back over to a PowerPoint to look at these and to discuss them. And so the overview of verb types. So far, we've talked about a couple of different kinds of verbs. We've talked about linking verbs, so we could probably call them statement being verbs. And then we've got the action verbs. Some of those action verbs were called
Pick up the good teacher.
and some of
Pick up the technician guy. Hello, pick him up.
difference being whether or not they had an object, a direct object. Right? So let's take a look at kind of an overview of these. So we have intransitive verbs. Does an intransitive verb have a direct object or does it not? Emma, do you remember? You don't remember? Okay. Teresa, does an intransitive verb have a direct object?
No.
Okay, no. And that would say that maybe we have intensive verbs. Well, this is the same thing as a linking verb. And since they don't show any action, they're not going to be transitive. And then we finally have a group of transitive verbs. We have 3 different kinds. And let's see, Rachel, does a transitive verb have a direct object?
Yes.
Right, exactly. So the way I probably mentioned this to you before, but when I think of transit, I think of carrying something. I think of a transit company. And if it's carrying something, it's carrying a direct object. So transit, transport, transporting something, that's something being a direct object. If it's intransitive, it does not have a direct object at all. Now, I can now take the transitive and I'm going to break it down into 3 kinds. And as we get into the midterm, you're going to need to be able to differentiate the 3. One of those is monotransitive.
No.
One of them is ditransitive, and the final one is complex transitive. Now, in this case, all of these will have a direct object. Okay? And none of the intransitive and none of the intensive will have direct objects. You can keep that in mind. So what do you suppose? What does mono mean? What does the prefix mono mean, Shara?
One.
One. And what do you suppose monotransitive means in that case?
One. It has one direct object.
Very good. All right. And I'm glad you said direct object because it's important to realize that you must have a direct object before you can have an indirect object. You can't say something like John gave Sally. That would be like a subject, a verb, and an indirect object. But you can't have an indirect object without a direct object. So calling out, as Shara did, a monotransitive has a single direct object. What does the prefix di mean, Michaela?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What is it?
What is the prefix di? That's
I'm
ditransitive.
hungry. I'm eating food now.
You're not done with class.
Shut up.
Mama.
With the indirect object.
Yeah, it does mean that we're going to have a direct object and an
Fisher.
indirect object. That's exactly right. And the reason
Yeah, you're reading stories to them.
see di as a prefix on something,
Because the librarian is not here.
di is two. And so we've got two.
He's the librarian for the
And
week.
then with a complex transitive,
He's a librarian.
direct object and an object complement. Direct object and object.
Stop! You'll break the chair.
Look at this sheet. This is a real simple sheet to walk you through the 5 types of verbs that we need to identify. If you look at this intransitive, what kind of a complement does it mean? And by complement, it's basically talking about some kind of an object, something that's required there. And an intransitive requires nothing.
Oh.
Big Ben chime is a good example
What?
of an intransitive verb.
What?
It's just
Because you're wet. You
chime.
read it from your mouth.
Even if we said Big Ben chimed at midnight, midnight wasn't affected by the chiming. It's just telling us when it happened. So intransitive doesn't have to have a complement, and some of the main verbs that we have here would be things like speak or cry or erupted. The volcano erupted. Well, volcano's the subject. Erupted is the verb. There is no direct object. Sleep. I slept. Even if I say I slept all night, all that's doing is saying I slept. And sometimes you could have dream could be all by itself. I dreamed. Or I dreamed of going to Hawaii. But I could also say I dreamt a nightmare. That would possibly be a transitive verb in that case. You can cry. Normally the baby cries. Or the person cries. You would just say, well, that's an intransitive verb. Because there's no option. Now, jump down to the intensive. And it's similar, but not exactly, similar to an intransitive verb. It will not have a direct object, but it will typically have a subject complement. You wouldn't normally go out there, the sky is, or the weather is. You would end up saying the weather is sunny, or the sky is blue. Or President Obama was. Well, Barack Obama was what? Well, we probably have to have a subject complement after it. Typically, with linking verbs, you're going to link whatever that subject complement is back to the subject. And so, intensive verbs almost always require a subject complement. if you can go in and identify an intensive verb, then go and look for the subject complement. It's that simple as putting these pieces together. Now, when we get to monotransitive, as Deshara mentioned, that means one object. And if it's one object, it must be the direct object. We can't have an indirect object by itself. So monotransitive says it's a direct object. Something is being impacted by the verb. I ate the steak. I read the book. He takes English classes. He crushed the can. And Sally supported Biden. All of those are showing you somebody doing something, and that the something that they're doing is impacting something else. Now, sometimes you can have intransitive verbs used like a transitive verb. Remember, I said baby cried. In that particular case, cried is just an intransitive verb. It's no direct object. But if I said the baby cried big salty tears, well, what did he cry? What was impacted by the crying? The big salty tears. So what you have to do is you have to look at many verbs, and you have to look specifically at the context to see, is there a direct object there or not? Because many intransitive verbs can also have a transitive use. He cried crocodile tears would be another one. So watch out for the context. Intransitive, there's nothing required. Intensive, we have subject complements. Monotransitive, we have just the direct object. And if you have two objects, direct and the indirect, then all you got to do is remember that that Greek prefix "e" or "die" is for two. And ditransitive means we've got two objects, direct and indirect. And then finally, we get down to the complex transitive, and that is the direct object. There has to be a direct object with every transitive verb, but in the complex sense, or the complex case, we've got a direct object with an object complement. The voters chose Joe Biden president, something like that. That would be president is redefining or saying what Joe Biden has become. And if the voters chose Joe Biden, then that would be the direct object. Anything describing Joe Biden after that, the object complement. Now, as you're looking through this, it seems like a lot, but what I want you to do is not simply try to memorize this, but try to understand it and begin to be able to generate your own patterns or your own examples.
Can you explain complex transitive one more time, please?
Sure, complex transitive is going to have a direct object, right? It's like transitive has to have a direct object, but it also has an object complement. And if you've ever studied this before, you might have heard it called an object predicative. Depends on who wrote the book. But the object complement is going to describe or say what the direct object became. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So as you begin to look through this, start trying to piece these pieces together. If I know that is an intensive verb, then I'm pretty sure the thing that's going to come after this is subject complement. If I can look at a verb and say did and or took, and I say took what, that what is going to be likely be a direct object. And if something is receiving something, then you can put it to the back.
Can you put your feet down?
And that's likely to be an indirect object. So you kind of just got to get used to it. You have to look at each sentence to really tell what the various pieces are. And once you've got the idea of what the pieces are, then you can select off and remember which type of verb it is. And if you can figure out what type of verb it is, Sometimes that helps you in the opposite direction, figuring out what the direct object and the indirect object or the object complement or subject complement might be. You can use this in both directions to help you get all of the pieces put together. You recognize the sentence pieces as you come up with the verb type. You can recognize the verb type. It'll help you come up with the various pieces of the sentence. I have given you one more exercise with this. I have verb types, and as I recall, I think it also has you pulling out some sentence elements so that you can see the relationship between the sentence elements and the verb type and get used to it so that you can start to use this as tools that work in both directions. Okay? Now, as I mentioned, the exam will be available to you in week 8's folder at 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. And you will have 1 week to finish that. It has to be turned in Tuesday night, right? It's all written in. You're going to have 10 questions at the beginning. And those 10 questions are going to be the ones where there's an error in each sentence. And you have to give me a good response as to show me what the error is, show me how to fix the error, and then describe the error to an English language learner student. By that I mean that it should not be something like your workbook uses for you, because you guys are teachers, so it says don't use S with past tense verbs or something. That's not very valuable to an English language learner, so you have to be a little bit more explicit on the explanation. But believe me, you should never have to write more than 3 sentences to tell me what that explanation is. And most of the time, for those 10, you can probably do it in 1 sentence or 2. 3 would be the max. It doesn't need a paragraph of explanation. It needs just a simple explanation of what the issue is. And as I said in the video, I remember doing the video this morning, and so I'm saying, if you're writing 2 paragraphs that give me a simple 1-sentence answer,
You're not recording it?
that you don't know what you're talking about, you need to go back and figure it out. Because what tends to happen is people will give me 3 answers in a paragraph because they don't know which one is right. They're hoping I will look at it and find a right one and give credit for it. But I'm looking actually for an individual correct answer. And that's going to be 1 or 2 sentences tops.
So is that to say that we should not write the rule as it is placed in the book? Does that answer the question?
What I'm saying is, yes, you got to be a bit more explanatory than what the book says. You know, you go into the book and it says things like, don't use is or an, is, or are with past participles. Well, that's not telling them why you should. It's just a key for you as you're going through checking the errors. But if you had something like, she eat dinner today. Well, you know where the problem is there. It should have been an S, and you would have to say something like, she eats dinner. And your explanation would be something like, you must put an S on the end of verbs that are 3rd person singular in the present. Something like that.
So we're still bringing up the grammar.
Yeah. And it's basically a sentence. You might get to need 2 sentences, maybe even 3. But the shorter you keep it and clear and complete, the better you're able to see the right answer. Or prove that you know the right answer. The next
Luego差点呢
5 sentences
如果你差点呢
very much like you saw on the sentence elements homework. And the homework that you're going to see for verb types will be even more like the verb type homework. Because I'm going to ask you to show me the subject, the verb, the all of the different complements or objects, name all of them, and then also tell me what type of a verb it has. So that's the second part. And then there's a third part that has some things that would be generally considered essay questions. It's a very short, one of them quite lengthy. I think you'll see in there the directions for what you need to do. And in the video, you can't talk to anybody except me about the test or the questions with proper answers on. In many cases, you may sit there and say, I really don't know what you're trying to call me. Maybe I can ask you those questions to lead you. Okay? And I don't have a problem doing that. I just want to make sure that you're learning something. I'll help lead you along. Okay? And given that it's open book, learn how to use your index, learn how to use the table of contents, learn how to use the PowerPoints and the videos I've given you, because all of that stuff is going to be there somewhere. Okay?
So then you have two short essay, one long essay.
Yeah, there would be two short, relatively short essay questions and one long one. Just watch the video one more time, so I'll be actually talking about things in the video and you'll see them on the screen as I walk through them. And again, I would suggest don't hesitate to call me. Okay? I don't know why people won't call me, but they don't. And I guess I'm mean and nasty, arbitrary and capricious, and other big, ugly words. So I don't know why they don't call me, but I don't want you to get confused. I don't want you to do badly on the test. And part of this is learning as you go through the test, so I don't have a problem working with you on those things. Okay?
What do you mean watch video? The midterm video?
Yeah, there's a midterm video on midterm explanation, I think is what it's called. And it'll be there on Wednesday.
Okay.
One last trick. Don't put it off until the end. You got 7 days to do it. Don't wait until day 6. Because you end up not having enough time to ask me the questions that you need to ask. And as I probably told you once before, I had a brilliant student in my class. And I told everybody in that class, don't wait till the last minute. It was going to be due at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She sat down and instead of working on it for a week, she worked on it for approximately 4 hours. But she was so freaked out that she ended up getting 25% on the exam. The total reason is she's waiting for the last get take-home exams because they take you longer than in class. So just don't put it off until the end. Start early. You may find it easier than you think. But that's kind of my advice. Don't wait till you. Okay. Who do you call? On Ghostbusters. I know the song. All right, I'm going to sit here until everybody else is gone. That means that if you want to ask me a question before you leave, you are free to do so. But if you have no questions, you are free to leave.
It's crazy. How many of us have died in the hands of the team? Don't lie.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So the exam is once we start,